Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome back to another in-home repair video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop. Before beginning any repair, always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for proper voltage. Remember to also turn off the water. Hi, I'm Matt with ApplianceVideo.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Samsung dishwasher. Customer's complaint is that when they start a cycle, they hear the water coming in, and after about a minute or so, the drain pump kicks on and it just drains the water right back out. It doesn't actually start a wash cycle. The error code that they were getting on here was an overwater level error. There are a couple other errors that you could get with the defective case brake sensor. You could get a low water level error or a water supply error as well. You'd basically just have to refer to your tech sheet and reference the blinking lights that would be coming on to discern what the issue is. But the case brake sensor on here typically gets plugged up, gunked up, and the float does not lift up and down, and that can cause this problem. You will need the following tools before you begin this repair: a T20 Torx driver, a Phillips screwdriver, and long nose pliers. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove this metal side cover panel here. You just got 2 Phillips screws. Once those screws are removed, panel will just kind of fold down and lift up. It's just held in by some little tabs at the bottom here. Set that off to the side. Okay, now that we've got the side panel removed, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the inside of the unit, pull the racks out. There's a little locking cover on the inside that actually holds this to the dishwasher that has to be removed. All right, we're going to go ahead and open up the dishwasher. We're going to remove the upper rack. You just pull it out and lift up. And the bottom rack will just pull out. All right, the next step is we're going to go ahead and remove this little locking cover. This is what secures the flow meter assembly to the tub. You're going to turn it counterclockwise. Easiest way to do it is to get something. I'm just going to use a pair of needle nose pliers. Just stick it in one of the little slots. Twist it counterclockwise. It'll release the tabs. And this will pull away. Now you want to take note, you can see right there, that's a gasket. If that thing falls off when you put this back together, the unit will leak. So you want to make sure that you keep that gasket there and that it is in place when you reinstalled it. Okay, before we begin this repair, we're just going to do a general overview of how these components all work together on a fill cycle on this unit. It's set up a little bit different than a lot of other dishwashers. What they have here, this whole assembly, this is what they call the case brake assembly, and Samsung will call this little box here the flow sensor or the case brake sensor. From here on out, what we're going to call these components to avoid confusion is we're going to call this the flow meter assembly, and we'll call this the case brake assembly. The reason we will be calling this the flow meter assembly is because that's basically what this is. There's a little wheel that's inside here that as water is filling, the wheel will turn, and that sends informational feedback to the main control board to let it know how much water is actually entering the unit. And on this case brake assembly here, this has a little float inside that as the water's filling, it'll pass through here, and this float will actually raise up to let the unit know how much water is actually inside the unit. So it takes informational feedback from here, and this is also kind of like a backup device, similar to like a float switch on most dishwashers, where it's just a little piece that just floats up and down that sets in the water. So this is kind of a a backup mechanism or a safety to where if the valve is sticking, this will know and it'll basically drain the water back out. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start a cycle so you can actually see what's happening on the side here. Okay, so I'm gonna power it up. I'm gonna hit the normal button here, and then we're gonna go ahead and hit start. So at this point, what you're gonna hear is just the water draining out of the unit. The drain pump is running. That will happen at the beginning of every cycle. It'll run for, I don't know, roughly 30 to 60 seconds, something along those lines, just to evacuate any old water that's sitting in the unit. Okay, the drain pump has stopped running. And you're gonna see your water's coming in right here. And that's gonna be spinning this wheel and coming up through here, and it's filling this chamber here with water. And there's your float right there. As the chamber fills up, you'll see your float starting to come up. And that's basically gonna be in between these two boards here. That's gonna kind of let the unit know how much water is actually inside of the unit. If this case break sensor or flow sensor gets corroded or plugged up, a lot of times there's just a bunch of mold that's gonna be in there. That thing cannot move freely, and the unit will not sense water's coming in, and it will typically send an error out, and the unit will drain the water out. This is the most common piece to actually go bad on this unit. If you're getting some type of a long fill error or an overfill error, this is typically the piece that you're gonna look at. Now, however, if this piece is moving freely, or you've already replaced it and still getting a long fill error, the next thing you would be looking to replace would be the whole, what I call the flow meter assembly, but they call this the actual case break assembly. This could be your issue as well. If both of those have been replaced and you're still getting an error code, the next thing you would have to replace would be your main control board. Also, you want to check, make sure you're getting good water supply and water is actually coming into the unit. If you're not getting enough water into the unit, then you'd be looking at your inlet valve. So right now, your float's kind of in between these two boards. It sensed that the water level was right, so now the dishwasher has started the cycle. So at this point, you can see your float is kind of right in between those two boards. Obviously, the unit is satisfied with the amount of water that's come in because it is running the wash motor, so it has started the cycle. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and remove the flow meter and case break sensor. We're just gonna pull them both out together as an assembly. What you're gonna do first, you got these you've got these electrical connectors here. Just gonna basically disconnect your 3 harnesses. And once those are removed, you got 6 different band clamps that have to be backed off. Once the band clamps are all backed off, you can just pull your lines off. It's pretty hard to get them mixed up. These two are a different size. The only two that are the same size are these 2 drain ports here. Just go ahead and take your last line off. And you can pull your assembly out. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna separate the flow meter from the case break. To do so, there's a little track right here, and you basically are just going to be gently pressing up, and that'll pop this little piece here out of the track that it goes into, and then it, you know, basically just pulls away like that. Okay, so we've got our new case brake sensor here, and you can see that float's moving freely. It's not sticking at all. We're just going to go ahead and install that onto the flow meter. So you got your little tab right here. All right, to install it, just go ahead and start getting this tube up the chamber a little bit until your slots align on here. And then you just basically drop it right down into place and it will lock in. Now we can go ahead and reinstall the assembly. Again, you want to make sure that this gasket is in place and it did not fall out before you reinstall this, because if you do not have this gasket, it will leak. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and install the assembly here. First thing you're going to do is just hook up all your lines. Now I find it a little bit easier as you're going to get this small line hooked up first here and get your band clamp down to hold that in place so it doesn't pop off on you, because these lines are pretty short, not a whole lot of room to work. You just want to make sure that they're fully pressed on there. So we got the second line hooked up here with the band clamp down. Okay, we've got all 4 lines hooked up. Just do a quick double check, make sure they're all seated properly. Now we're going to go ahead and hook our electrical connections up. This is kind of a difficult part because these lines are really short on here. And they are keyed, so you can't hook the wrong connector up. All right, just do a quick double check, make sure everything's locked in place, and then you can go ahead and fold this up. Again, make sure you still have that gasket there. And now we're gonna go ahead and sort of press it in here. Like that, and we're gonna go to the front of the unit. All right, so what we're gonna do is go ahead and push this through the tub here. We're gonna go ahead and put our locking cover back on. Just put it in place and twist it clockwise, and you'll kind of feel it lock. You can check it out, make sure everything's good there. All right. So now we're just going to go ahead and put our side panel back on. All right, we're going to go ahead and take our side panel. We got our 4 little tabs here. Just put those right into the bottom where the slots are at. Your screw holes should line up. And go ahead and just reinstall your 2 Phillips screws. Okay, now at this point we're ready to reinstall the dishwasher. and that will complete the repair. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.